See. It's not showing me. Oh, there I go. Hi, guys. Let me know if anybody comes in here. I haven't been out here for a while, so hi and welcome to Trucking Along with Kiersey. That's me, your positive voice in trucking. Um, yes, I'm in a hotel because I'm tired of sitting out here. The loads are crazy. Um, wake up. Hey, Barry. How you doing? What's going on with you? I've um I've been getting really crazy loads. So today I sat down with all my numbers trying to figure out like what's my average miles per week, what's my average pay, that kind of thing. Hey Misty, how you doing? What's new with you? And so it's been a little different being on a lease truck because I am with an owner operator, a fleet owner, rather than on a company truck. I'm still a company driver. I still get all my benefits and everything, but I'm finding out the loads are very different. And I'm not sure if there's no freight or if it's company versus lease. I think it's a little bit of both. That's my guess. Um, it's very different. Uh, I'm not sure I like. I'm sorry to say that because it's not the fleet owner. Somebody messaged me and said, "Oh, well, it's because you're driving, you have a middleman." And that was something I was afraid of when I came, you know, when I decided to go before that's one of the reasons why I never wanted to get on a lease purchase truck was because I didn't want a middleman. But I got greedy on Kenobi back, which is cool. In Joplin, anything going on in Joplin? You at the casino? Go win something. That's where I would be right now if I was in Joplin. Instead, I'm in Cincinnati. Ugh. And it turned out that on Friday, they pre-planned me on a load. I delivered a load last night. I thought that I was supposed to pick up my next load today at noon. It turned out, no, it's tomorrow at noon. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here at this customer for 24 hours, not to mention the fact that there's like no truck stops in Cincinnati. I'd have to drive for a little while. So I was like, the heck with it. I dropped that trailer at the customer. I went to Olive Garden. I got a room and start working on some videos. So then I was like, hey, let's see what night owls are still up and if anybody would pop in. Thank you for popping in, by the way. It's been a long time, I know. But have any of you guys been watching the whole clash with the Teamsters and Yellow and the Teamsters and UPS? Because the Teamsters with Yellow is absolutely amazing. Um, I don't have a dog in the fight, so I don't have that passion about it. But my gosh, that guy over at Yellow, to me, he just created like a public relations nightmare. He's going everywhere he can talking about how this is the union's fault, this is the union's fault, and we're going to run out of money by the end of the summer, and there's only 3 of us that are still around that are union LTLs, and it's the union's fault. And um you know he kept saying, like, over and over, we have to secure these jobs. He really makes it sound like they're going to go out of business by the end of the summer. And to me, in my opinion, that doesn't sound good to customers. If I had a contract or I was going to do business with somebody and they're telling me their business is so screwed up that they're not going to make it another couple months, why the heck would I choose them? That makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. So what do you guys want to talk about? Hmm? Come on. Come on. Give me a topic. But I was making this video and it's kind of cool because one of the Teamsters reps, he goes point by point of why you know, of what they did wrong and things they did wrong. And what did Yellow do? They turned around and sued the Teamsters for like $137 million. You know, Muppets asking what happened with UPS. Well, UPS, UPS and the Teamsters are trying to renew their contract. And there's a lot going on that it's kind of hard to follow. Being that I worked in the post office, I sort of comprehend what they're talking about. There are certain drivers that are paid way less, that are more like what at the post office we call them a casual employee. So I'm not quite sure if they're temporary employees to them or just part time to them, but they don't get the same pays as the other employees. And uh, they're usually flexible, like they can move around. So what happens is a union will sit here and say, well, there's X number of man hours in this position. So that is a bargaining chip they use to create a permanent job there. So there's a lot going on with that. They keep going back and forth to, they're threatening to strike. They voted on whether or not they would strike. They've been to the table a couple of times apparently, but I kind of got sidetracked by Yellow because I just thought the Yellow guy, Darren, uh, what's his name? I don't even remember his last name, but his name is Darren something. I really thought that he made a really bad decision to just blame everything on the union when they took out that $700 million loan from the government during COVID and they still are screwed up. It's like, how much can you blame on the union? And the guy goes on and on about, we've been here 100 years and strong leadership should be working together. And he's kind of like pointing a finger at the union saying, you guys keep changing positions in your union jobs and your union like officials and your union leadership, but we Yellow, we've been here. Okay, you're the same guy that just said like 3 minutes ago that you're not going to be here by the end of the summer. So I don't know. Ugh. Um. So what do you do when you're waiting at a company? How do you feel about it? Well, I wasn't waiting at the company today. I came and got a hotel room. I was really upset I didn't bring my bathing suit. But I did go down and walked on the treadmill for a while. It started pouring down rain, so it sucked. But I did. I went to Olive Garden and I had a good meal. How how you can make money with Prime? How do I make money with Prime? Oh, hey, there's Christopher Maddox. How you doing? Um, well, see, now I got this itch on my nose. I'm sorry, guys. But I was just looking at my numbers today and it's interesting because people really think company drivers don't make any money. They think all company drivers make 50 cents a mile. That's a starting pay. So every year we get a raise in the summertime. Every year we get a personal raise that's based on how many miles we've driven. So to sit here and assume that a company driver of 8 years makes 50 cents a mile, that's not true. However, a brand new company driver doesn't necessarily make 50 cents a mile either. Why? Because we have up to like 10 cents a mile in bonuses that we make between the fuel bonus, on time delivery bonus, the accident free bonus, the wellness bonus. So if you add all that stuff up, 10,000 uh 10 cents a mile. I think 5 cents a mile comes out to $6,000 a year if you're running 125,000 miles a year. So that's like $12,000 right there that people just like say, oh, that doesn't count because it's a bonus. Oh, okay. Like somebody actually said that to me on a video yesterday. Um, how's it going for you now in Prime with the new move? I'm still getting adjusted. I'm doing a lot of short loads and I'm not crazy about it. I was just counting, and it was like only 5 of my 20 loads that I've done in the past 4 weeks have been over 500 miles. I don't like that. I really don't like that. I like to at least have 2 days on a load, like driving, and be able to plan and be able to stop and relax. And that's not really what's happening with me. Like some days I'll be at 3 customers in one day, which is what happened to me yesterday. And then now today I went into my customer, found out my appointment wasn't for today, it's for tomorrow. And then it picks up tomorrow at noon and then doesn't deliver till Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let me get this straight. So Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, really. Okay, that's all. That's 3 days of driving, and it's like 380 miles. Come on. I can do that in 7 hours. That sucks, you know? Um, Hi, Etch. The yellow guy, does that make him a minion? No, it doesn't make him a minion. Is your video about moving to a fleet owner? You said something about losing your driver code money. Do you lose all your referral money? No, I'm not going to lose my referral money, but because they're not bringing people in, they're not hiring people. I'm not going to continue. I'll still get money for the people that I've already brought in over the years. I get paid for them until they leave Prime because I have no intention of leaving Prime. Um, but it's not new money coming in. So I was adding this stuff up today. Oh, since I've been on this truck, I've averaged $2,195 a week. And that includes my referral bonuses and my training because I still get retention money for the students that I've had over the past year. We get paid for them periodically for a whole year, as long as they stay a year. And part of that is to be there as like a soundboard for them, as an advisor for them. So yes, I might only have them 2 or 3 weeks when they're in their CDL program, but when they get on that TNT truck and they need somebody to call, they all know they can call me and I'm going to help them as best I can. So right now I'm at 21.95. I looked at a year ago, I was at 28. So from last year to this year, I'm already $700 down. Now, if you take the training and the referral bonuses out and just go by what I would be paid driving this truck without any of those bonuses, it came out to $1,400 a week. So $2,800 from last year versus $1,400 from this year, it's not exactly it's not exactly cool. And people assume that company drivers don't make any money on the company trucks and go lease truck and go drive for that mini fleet because you're going to make more money. That's not true. And I sat there and I added that up too, and I'm like, holy crap. I forget well, I'm doing 1,400 a week. So on the company truck, when I was solo, I was about $800 a week. So just by driving on a mini fleet instead of going on a company truck, I'm losing like $400 a week. You know, it's just the way it is. Being unionized is a double-edged sword. Yeah, I kind of think so too. And I did a video talking about the Teamsters before, and a lot of them came on and they were like, yeah, union, union, brotherhood, and we're in our jobs forever. Well, one thing, a byproduct of the union is, in my experience, everybody has different experiences, but in my experience, the byproduct is that you feel stuck. You feel stuck in that position and you're like, well, I got these benefits and I got this money, and will I make money someplace else? And like, once you're in a place, especially once you have seniority, it, you feel like stuck. That's the only way that I can put it. It's like, oh, I can't leave because I devoted myself to these. And you know what? Guess what? I shouldn't say that because I just said the same thing today about Prime. Somebody had been asking me, well, with the economy the way it is, should you leave Prime? And, you know, um, my boyfriend's talking about buying a house, and we're looking, uh, a radius of Springfield so I could go in-house eventually. And then I'm sitting here figuring, well, would it make more sense to get a job someplace else or get closer to the house? And, so I guess me personally, I might feel stuck anywhere. I just hate change. So once I feel comfortable, I'm gonna go there. But I think, what do you do when you're waiting to be loaded? Uh, make videos, talk on the phone. Answer phones for students that don't know what to do. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll get calls from people that say, "Hey, I just hit something," or "My trainer sucks," and that kind of thing. So, is dispatch hard to work with now that you have different dispatchers? I don't have different dispatchers. And that was one really cool thing about the fleet owner that I came to. My fleet manager went from company to lease. So then that meant I was getting a different dispatcher. However, the fleet owner that I'm driving for allowed me to take my truck over to my old fleet manager. So I actually have my same fleet manager back. I have the same payroll person, the same road assist person, and all the same weekend and night dispatch people. So I'm really happy about that. Do you think it's going to be possible to go back to company eventually, or is this the new norm? You know, people forget that Prime used to be 100% lease. Um, and one thing that I was just talking to somebody about today is the PSD program. When the freight goes up, they're going to need trainers again. And when it comes to PSD, the lease ops don't make as much money doing PSD as they do TNT. As a company driver, you make more money doing PSD with the CDL portion. So they're going to need PSD instructors, and those will primarily be company drivers. That's number one. Number two, um, in the past, when they needed PSD instructors, they would say to, say, a brand new lease op of only 6 or 8 months, "Hey, you come be a trainer. You can do TNT. Oh, wait, you have to do at least one PSD before you do TNT," because they knew that the lease op wouldn't make as much money doing PSD, so people didn't want to do it. Now the law has changed. You have to have 2 years experience to do PSD, which pretty much means that, anybody that's brand new that just wants to make extra money isn't going to have that option. It'd be interesting to see. I personally, I'm never going to go lease. I don't care what any of these people say. It's not worth it to me. It's it's too much aggravation. Looking at these loads, listening to some of the people like talk to my fleet manager and talk to other fleet managers and argue with them. Um, it just and it's funny because I have a lot of lease friends that I never understood what they were talking about, where they were saying they were always sitting and waiting. And I think part of that is, um, they use company drivers to repower people a lot. So when that happens, as a company driver, you're not supposed to be able to say no. Of course, we can say no. All I have to do is say I'm sick, I'm too tired. Just not answer the phone, not answer the Qualcomm. They can't say, "Oh, you know that we were calling," especially if I'm a sleeper. And if I'm driving, I'm not supposed to be answering the phone anyway, right? I'll tell them, "Oh, my headset died." Lease is cake work. I talk to my fleet manager like twice a year. Well, so do I. I talk to my fleet manager because I love him. We get along, but the actual loads are so different to me. It's just exhausting, and I don't know why I'm getting all these short loads. I don't want to be in customers 2 and 3 times a day. I just don't want to do it. And what I'm seeing is they're higher per mile, higher pay per mile, for the shorter loads. Would you ever leave driving to become a dispatcher or any other admin person in Prime? I've been thinking about that a little bit. Um, to be a dispatcher, I don't think so, because I don't want to deal with the attitudes of all the drivers. you know, uh, on the one thing I'm seeing on the lease side is that people will sit here and say, I'm not going in the Northeast. I'm not driving weekends. I'm taking a 34 every weekend. I'm not driving nights. I'm not doing this, this, and this. And then that eliminates them from a whole bunch of loads. So then they're complaining that they're not getting loads or they're sitting. Um, on the company side, I never sat for a meat load. I haven't sat for a meat load on the company side since my first year, or unless I needed a 34-hour reset to reset my 70. Um, Usually they'd have me go in, expect me to do an 8-2 split to be able to get it done and not extend the appointment time. It was usually like a load where somebody's truck broke down or somebody got hurt, somebody got sick, something of that nature. And then I went and saved the day, if you will. So, uh, where's the tightest place they've sent you? Bedding company. Is Orient part of the Teamsters? Where's the tightest place they sent me bedding company? Um, I guess you're asking what company. It's probably a typo. The tightest customer I've ever been to was up in New Jersey. It sucked. I had to jackknife around a telephone pole and leave the truck like in the L shape, and then cars were driving on the sidewalk and stuff. Oh, being company. Um, I the customers are all the same. The customers are all the same. So whether I go as a company or whether I go as a lease, that's not making a difference. But it seems that the loads themselves are different as far as when they set the appointment times. Uh, Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. But it was like something that really aggravated me last week was I did have a long load, which is what I wanted. They didn't set the appointment for the Walmart, for the delivery. And so I took my 10-hour break. I wanted to get through the really bad storm I was driving through before I gave an ETA for the appointment. And what did they do? They set the appointment without asking. They wouldn't have done that on the company side. I would have gotten a message saying, what's your ETA to the customer? And then I would have told them, and then they would have set the appointment. But being on this side, they just set the appointment. Then I stop and I look and I'm like, holy crap, I will barely make this. This makes no sense. So I told dispatch and they were like, well, I'll see what I can do. And then it came back of, well, you're 264 miles away from the customer and you can drive 4 hours and blah, 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 blah. And so what do you think? Well, what I think I'm going to be really close or not make it at all. And if you miss Walmart, you have to wait a whole nother 24 hours. So, um, that annoyed me. And it turned into like, I got there like 20 minutes before the appointment time, which, as far as I'm concerned, is late. I've never been uh, consistently put in those types of situations. I've had lease friends that would look at my schedule and say, holy crap, you're never going to make that when I was on company trucks, but I felt completely comfortable with that. I knew what I could make. And now it seems like because they know the trucks can go 65, they expect you to go 65, while at the same time, they're complaining to you about, net fuel costs and miles per gallon and stuff, even though they're not even ones paying for the fuel. The lease op's paying for the fuel. So, You know, what time do you show up to your appointment times? As early as possible. As early as possible, especially a lot of these customers are first come, first serve. Um, and it's funny because I've had some customers tell me that Prime's the one that sets the appointments, which explains why we have appointments and they're closed. I don't think a customer would make an appointment when the facility's closed. Um, and then I've had Prime tell me, no, the customer sets the appointments. Uh, so I just show up as early as I can. You know, there are certain customers, Walmart, you can't show up before an hour beforehand. And this is something that when I first started, the lease ops wanted to hurry up and get onto that next load. So they were going and delivering the load, and Walmart was giving Prime basically a fine and saying, well, we're going to reduce the rate. We're going to reduce the freight rate. And so everything got screwed up. So right now, Prime is being such a stickler about this that we get 3 calls per shift that you have a Walmart, and you get repeated messages saying, don't go into the customer, and all of a sudden they're using this OTIF, like on time in full. I'm like, okay, I never heard anybody use that before. It's just really weird. Um, do you recommend going company or lease after TNT? I think everybody should go company right away. And the reason is, and I again was on a phone with a friend of mine today who's been leased here for 8 years at Prime. And he said that once he didn't start getting really good paying loads until and have more, I don't want to say control, but maybe a little bit more freedom, if you will, until like after his first year. And my friends, my highest paying lease friends that I've ever been able to document with settlements and stuff, they were company for a year. And when they went, you know, lease team, right away they got put on the FedEx loads and the high val loads, which they do not want to give to new drivers because FedEx, it's a $5,000 fine if you're late with a FedEx load. So the high val loads, the FedEx loads, the really important customers, they don't want to give to brand new people. So then you get into this point of here's a newer driver who's not making any money leasing, who's struggling, who then says, let me go team or let me do TNT. And then they're not, people have this misconception that if you go teaming on a lease truck, that the rates themselves are getting higher. It's not true. If you run the same, if it's solo $2.50 a mile, that same load is going to be team $2.50 a mile. You just are teaming, so more miles on that load. This is a good thing about flatbed. All the customers really want is get there as early as possible. Sometimes even the day before the appointment is just fine with them. Um, yeah, I have friends that are flatbed that one guy, he's from truckingtruth.com, as a matter of fact, and he did flatbed for 2 years and then he went to tanker, and he said tanker's the same way. So when he hears me talk about appointments and doing 8-2 splits to get to appointments, because on reefer some of the appointments are 3 o'clock in the afternoon, some are 2 o'clock in the morning, like, and I have to kind of play miracles with my clock. Like the other day I had to drive to the customer, get there by 10 o'clock at night. My appointment was actually at midnight, but then they had me picking up at 9 o'clock the next morning. So when was I going to get my 10-hour break? I wound up getting to the customer a few hours early, was able to get just enough time to do a 7 in the sleeper, and then get to the next customer. And you know, had to pick that up, ran as hard as I could, like the last few hours or whatever, then did 3 in the sleeper off duty again, and then went and delivered the load at 10 o'clock at night, which then I didn't get out till 1 o'clock in the morning. So, um, getting a 10-hour break right now has been hard for me. Is Prime part of the Teamsters Union? No, we're not. We are not union. The reason I brought it up though was just because I thought the whole Teamsters thing was interesting. Uh, it's fun to watch people point fingers at each other. Over at UPS, the Teamsters are blaming UPS. UPS is saying, "Oh, it's the Teamsters that are walking away from the table," and the same thing's going on with Yellow. Um, but at the same time, the Teamsters got a union with ABF, and there wasn't some big threats to strike and all that, and total ruin. Uh, so is it really the union or is it the company? And when you wind up having a company that has consistently been in financial trouble, that's an issue. They have 22,000 drivers, I think it comes out to. So 22,000 drivers, and that Yellow is saying, um, Yellow is saying, hey, we're going to lose these jobs. So he's bluffing. The union's going to call his bluff, but sometimes that can backfire as far as I'm concerned. How often are you doing splits? Here's the thing. I've always done the 8-2 splits, but I've done them when I want it to. So I like to drive a lot of nights. Hi, Hans. Mwah. Thank you. Thank you for that super chat. Um, so our split's great to do, and how do I use them? I actually have a really good video about the 8-2 split, so go check that out. I did it a few months ago, but I usually like to do them in the wintertime or when I'm driving nights. Sometimes I'll use that 2-hour or that 3-hour split break as me showering and eating in the middle of my drive shift. So say I was gonna start driving at noon, let's say. I might drive till 4 or 5 o'clock before the truck stops fill up, go run, eat, go grab a shower, be down for 2 hours, and then go finish the rest of my drive shift, go to the customer, park at the customer, maybe do the 8 in the sleeper after I deliver or whatever, and then get on my way. I've also used them to avoid traffic. When I was brand new, I drive, say, from 3 in the morning till 7. That's when the traffic starts. So I'd park 50 miles outside of a city, take a 2-hour break in a rest area or a truck stop or something, and then by 9 o'clock, I could go roll. By the time I get to that city, it's now 10 a.m. and I just missed the morning traffic. And then I could do the same thing in the afternoon. By the time I park at the afternoon work traffic, then I'm back in my sleeper. So I completely miss the rush hour traffics, especially around the cities doing that. So there are ways to utilize it to whatever way works for you. Driving nights, it's a good way for me to take a nap. Um, it does normally on the company side, it would help me get more miles than say somebody else, because what I would do is, like, say I was in a dock for 4 or 5 hours. The person next to me is in the dock for 4 or 5 hours. The person next to me just leaves and runs out their clock. Now they have to go take a full 10-hour break. I would just kind of like go creep at the customer and finish my 8 in the sleeper at the customer, and then I could go roll out, then later take the 2-hour break. And so now I just took 10-hour break and they took a 15-hour break. So 5 hours, that's 300 miles. For what I get paid, it's about $225, $240, something like that. So if I can do that twice a week, I'm already $500 a week ahead of you. But it's just the way that I learn. Slim Shady, hi! I wanted to see if you were gonna pop in. I miss my night out, people. Masterful clock management. You've taught me some interesting concepts on that Oh, thank you. Um, I also used it, uh, I guess I did a lot with my students too in TNT doing the team training because I wanted them to see how it was going to work. So I did the same thing. Oh, Hans, thanks again. Mwah. He says, good night. Love you from Redding, California, and really love your videos. Oh, see, anybody who knows Hans from my chats, or the comments, he can be a little salty, but he's actually a sweetheart. But better you to be in Redding, California than me, because I don't want to be there. I don't, if I could stay far, far away from California. So, Slim Shady, what are you up to lately? Where are you? Hmm. And Daniel, what is something that you always wanted to know, but nobody ever actually answered your question about, or people don't talk about it? Because I think there's a lot that people don't talk about or they don't get right. Maybe they misunderstand things. Um, there was this guy in commenting yesterday about this AI stuff. Oh, you're in Vegas. Lucky you. Me and my boyfriend were in Vegas like back in May. Where are you staying? Are you staying at a hotel? We were staying at Circa, and it's brand new down in the old strip or the downtown area down on Fremont Street. It was a adults only hotel. Like when you're walking through the door, they actually check your ID. It was really cool because like some of those hotels, some of the casinos now, you're sitting there playing the slot machines and stuff, and there's like little kids running under your feet and screaming and yelling, and I'm like, ew, you know, I don't have kids, but if I did, I'd be coming to get away from them. And it's like when I go on my own vacation, I don't want to have to get away from your kid. So the hotel was new and it was great, and got my spa treatment, of course. Researching oil fields, probably heading to North Dakota to drive water trucks. Ooh, interesting. Heading to Long Beach, California, and then San Diego on my second stop. Ew. I don't want to be either one of those places. My sister lived in San Diego. It's beautiful, though. Oh, you stay with a friend. In Utah at a way station with my student for the night. Thanks for the live. Well, hi, Tim, and thank you. Hey, you know what? Talk about way station. I should do a whole video on this. I got kicked out of a way station by a cop last week. Long, kind of long story, but I'll try to sum it up real quickly. There was an accident in Indianapolis, so we were all kind of sitting there running out of time, which you can't legally go off duty. You have to be on duty, and there were so many cops around. So me and these three trucks wound up going down 74, and we get to the first rest area, and it's closed. They put barriers up. We get to this second supposed rest area, it's not even there anymore. All right. So then here comes the way station. All three of us trucks go into the way station and we parked on the shoulder. And yes, it says no parking, but I've been parking at way stations for years, right? Well, in the morning, all I wanted was the 7 in the sleeper. So Daniel, this goes back to the 7 in the sleeper thing can help. So all I wanted was that. I had I think 40 minutes left or something on that 7, and this cop walks up, bangs on the truck window, and he's like, "You got 5 minutes to leave. If you open your mouth and say one word, I'm gonna ticket you and give you a full truck and trailer inspection." Okay. So, okay, so now I have to get up and leave within 5 minutes. So, was that a trick? Like, I'm sitting here going, is he trying to get me to drive away so then he could pull me over to, check my logs, and then he knows that he could give me a ticket because I didn't do a pre-trip? You know, um, what's my opinion? California's electric having trucks by 2036. I'll believe it when I see it. They have to come up with better battery technology that's going to save that power. And from what it looks like, they don't have that yet. And, um, you know, we have all this technology, and there are so many problems with all of it. This stuff doesn't all work. So they do this big hype about, oh, this and that, and oh, cameras and AI and all this. And like the post office 20 years ago, they paid $1 million for a robot to come in that was supposed to unload the trailers for us. It was actually an automated pallet, basically, that ran on a track, and it knew if it was unloading this truck, it went to that machine, and it was supposed to go through. Guess what? Nobody actually measured the robot, and it couldn't get through the dock doors. So I don't trust engineers. I don't trust the government. I don't trust technology. Half the time I can't get my freaking laptop to work to make the videos. Seen any coyotes lately? They seem to stalk you at the rest station. Oh my God. Yeah. Do you remember rest area across from the one that's not there? You go to the next exit and hang a U-turn. Yeah. You never had a problem with coyotes? Yeah, there is Tim, there was a couple years ago, I think Barry's talking about that my fleet manager sent me to Florida, and then he sent me to Texas, and then I wound up in like Arizona or something. So, uh, in Florida, I teased him. I was like, "You sent me to Florida, and the alligators didn't eat me. You sent me to Texas, and the coyotes were chasing deer or something across the highway, and like I felt bad because I think I ran over one of the legs of the coyotes, and I felt bad. I heard him go." And then I get to the rest area and there were rattlesnakes. Like I saw this sign like poisonous, venomous animals, I don't know, critters, scorpions and rattlesnakes. What else is poisonous? Are lizards poisonous? I don't know. Mhm. I think way stations are crap for parking. We should be able to park there, especially since it's considered safe haven. States close rest areas and truck stops are mostly full after CP. Exactly. See, there are certain states that their way stations are amazing. Amazing. This was Ohio. Um, um, Kentucky has great way stations, like 100 parking spots. Indiana, you can find really big way stations. Florida, Georgia, um, you know, up in Slim Shady, where is it? Is it Washington? There's a way station that's right next to a rest area, and you go up the steps. There's a Love's nearby, and like 100 trucks will go squeeze into this Love's that only has 60 parking spaces. But nobody wants to go park at the way station that actually has a real rest area at the top of the steps with bathrooms. Oh, scorpions, yeah, scorpions, ew. I've seen a few coyotes and snakes, but mostly are women. That's not nice. But yeah, so let's see. All kinds of crazy things. It was an interesting run doing the training on the pad. I had a lot of fun. If I could pick any job, that would be the one I had. I basically set my own schedule. I took loads when I wanted. I took as many students as I wanted. The more students I had, the better my pay. Um, it was really, really kind of fun. Um, I only had the students for 2 to 3 weeks, so if there was anybody that really got on my nerves, I just didn't even have to worry. You know, they were going to be gone eventually. Um, but it's really cool that when people go and they upgrade and they feel like they're accomplished something. It's really why if you watch the videos, I was trying to show people and their excitement and their achievement because not only do I think it can motivate other people, but I think when they struggle, when they go solo and, they're like, what the heck, they can go back and watch their own excitement. Because people are under this misconception that they get their CDL and they're good to go. No, it doesn't work like that. You are still learning, the CDL is the easy part, even though it seems like it's the hardest part. You're going to be learning for you know, that whole year. Um, but what's with the QC doing automatic split births even when you don't check that is something that happened in OmniTrax did that a few months ago. That is not just a Prime thing. That has happened in all the companies that use OmniTrax. Now, Prime has been looking at 4 different companies, and I did actually meet representatives of 2 of the companies. So, I was asked if Prime was going to allow them to test the unit, if I would test the unit. I really was interested in seeing what this new unit could do. This guy proposed it as like this total communication type of system where it had so many functions that I actually told him it's great that it has these functions and capabilities, but I already know that Prime won't use it. How would we get management to use it? Because what happens is, and I think there should be a way, um, you know, to have something saved so that, uh, fleet managers answer the same question over and over and over. So why not have something in the Qualcomm? If you go into, say, a chat for your credit card app, there's a chat that you can type in, a topic, and then it gives you a list of the answers. Why don't we have something like that? Now, I'm not complaining about our IT department because when I first came here, the app was basically useless. It had a little bit of information, and they've really built it up over the last few years. So I think they've done an amazing job, and they're always trying to take any kind of critiquing and any kind of, new ideas. Um, Going back to sleep. You all stay safe out there. Good to see your smiling face again, Kiersey, and be safe. Mwah, thank you. Um, yeah, like, frequently asked questions. We do actually have one of those on there, but this was going to be more like, you know, there were a lot of capabilities that this thing could do, including you could record a voice message. Your fleet manager could then hear it, and he could send you a voice message back. And then that way you're driving, he's sending you a pre-plan and he's actually saying, so it's not the Qualcomm reading your message to you. You're actually getting it like the pronunciations correctly because a real person's doing it. So I love with tresses. I have a team partner. Is it worth driving team with Prime money wise? We drive buses and make 75K each per year. Uh, yes, you could do more than that as a team on a company truck. The problem is that the freight sucks right now. Okay. Um, Freight, it doesn't matter what company you go to, freight is down across the board. I have friends, lots of friends at different companies, CFI. I mean, I do have friends that are driving gasoline trucks and they seem to be doing well. One of my former students is hauling milk and she seems to be doing well. Um, our tanker side right now seems to be doing fairly well, but that would be nice having voicemail feedback. Yeah, this system seemed really, really amazing, and I was really interested, and I was really hoping. And he was doing interviews with drivers. He wanted to do videos of our interviews and ask us all the same question. And he was saying that what happens is he consistently hears the same problems and answers, and then he could go back and take it to his design team and try to fix things. Um, but to answer your question about teaming on the company side, okay, uh, I have students that were making about $1,800 to $2,000 a week each on the company side with full benefits, 401k, and that sort of thing. Really, really good weeks, they would go up to 2,600, 2,800. That was consistent up until about September or October of this year. Now they're closer to the 1,800, 2,000 mark each. And, that can be a real disappointment when you've been seeing these really big paychecks consistently. So I was talking about my pay earlier, and I've seen a huge pay cut too. Um, the only thing I could say is hang in there. Uh, so you're running what kind of a bus? What kind of a bus are you running? Because I was always thinking that I would do like a tour bus. We used to have these tour buses that would go from Philadelphia and go all down the south and New Orleans, then drive back up to Philly. And they got to stay in hotels every night, and they went to all these different, touristy attraction type of places. And I thought that would be cool. I wish my GPS had Kiersey's sexy voice. That's funny because I always thought I had a little kid's voice. Thanks. Uh, I've actually been made fun of about my voice. Uh, one of the other YouTubers said it sounded like a dying cat or scratching cat or something. But I went. I guess I was in my 20s or 30s, and I would answer the phone back when we had telemarketers calling our house phones. And this lady called and says, "Hi, sweetie, is your mommy there?" I was like, "No, she's in the bedroom with the mailman, but I'm not allowed to talk about it." And she's like, "Ah!" So, but you know what, Hans? I thought you were going to bed. I thought you were going to bed. But Tresses, I want to know, what kind of bus do you drive? Do you drive a school bus? I don't think I could handle being around kids like that. I did have a student that drove a school bus, and I thought that was going to make her a good driver. It really didn't, because she didn't have the stamina to keep up with this. A Kiersey GPS might be too honest with me and hurt my feelings. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's why I never had a GPS until I had been driving the truck here for about a year and a half. When I took my first student, that's when I bought my first GPS. Because I said that I didn't want my car to think it was smarter than me. I wasn't going to have my car call me an idiot. But my brother, he does all this kinds of programming and stuff, and he had this GPS that was he had different software that could change the voices, and one of them was George W. Bush, and it was just so funny. It would like stutter and be like, you know, you're supposed to take that turnaround thing, and I don't know what it was so funny. And then there was one that sounded like the lady that gypsy lady from the original Wolfman, like, you were supposed to turn at that last exit. Immediately, you need to off the highway, or I will put the hex on you. What's a good GPS? I have no idea. Uh, the reason I say that is because oh, hi Pelican. Nice to see you in here. I don't think I've done a live since you've been around on Trucking Truth. But Daniel's asking about a good GPS. I like Rand McNally because I like the interface and I hate change, so I got used to it. But over the years, they keep changing it and it just gets worse and worse. And like sometimes they overheat. So like once every year or two, you have to buy a new one. And they're like $300-400. Sometimes you could get a rebate. Now, there were some really cool options on the older models that I'm sure are still on the newer models. I just can't find them. Uh, when it comes to the Garmin, one thing that I didn't like about the Garmin, and it's why I never bought one and never bothered to learn how to do it, is it does not take you to the truck entrance. It takes you to the corporate address. So the car parking lot could be on this side of the building, and you might have to go down the street around the block and come through the back end of the building for the truck entrance. And, you know, I'm crazy enough and have enough problems. I don't need the GPS taking me to the wrong damn entrance. That's why I'm paying $400. uh, dealing with kids is like dealing with women who are on PMS. I'll pass on both accounts. Hans, it's not nice. You never had issues with a Garmin? That voice just reminded me of the movie Holes. Pelican says, I have a Rand McNally, although sometimes it's got me in trouble. It gets dumb sometimes. Yes. Wombat says I used to be a telemarketer, and that was you I called. Oh my God, I did a video about how I tease telemarketers. Like way back. You remember how like we used to have the psychics that would call and try to do you a free reading? I worked the nights, and so this lady calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hi, I'm Psychic Stella, and I'm willing to give you a free reading, blah blah blah. And I said, "Oh, I'm asleep." And she's like, I'm sorry. I could call you back later. I said, don't bother. She says, what do you mean? I'm going to do it for free. I said, because I already know you're fake. I'm a night worker. If you would have called me at 3 or 4 in the morning when I was awake, I would have paid you $5,000 or every damn dime I had. But you just proved to me that you're fake. Why would I go with you? uh, um, yeah, Pelican, you cannot follow GPSs. It's a guide, it's a tool. It's not something that's religious. I teach all my students how to read the Rand McNally Atlas. I have them get like a notepad that I have clipped on the dash. I still do this myself in places that I'm not familiar with. I usually use it for the last turn by turn directions. So draw a column. The column on the left is the directions, like I-80, exit 34 to whatever, US 6 East. And then on the right-hand side, every 100 miles, there's usually a really big Petro or TA that would have 300 or more parking spaces. So then that way, I would tell my students, okay, when you get to that truck stop, you have 100 miles more to go. Do you have enough hours on your clock to get to that next 100 miles? Because if not, you might not find parking. And if so, stop where you're at. And then the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to start your break earlier. So you're going to get your hours back earlier. So then you just keep running. Um, Truckers Pass really good for proper entrances at truck stops or businesses. I use both the Qualcomm and the Garmin. Both can be dumb. You need to be smarter than them. Another issue with the GPSs is when you get to places that are really heavily constructed, or especially down south where they have frontage roads and service roads, it gets all confused. It can't tell where you're going. So a lot of times you're driving and then all of a sudden on the screen, you're like driving across the water, driving across the ground or something. It's funny. Had me go through a neighborhood when I could have stayed on course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Years and years ago, one of the brand new drivers here followed the GPS and followed the actual Omnitrax GPS, the Navgo in Pennsylvania. uh, Pennsylvania had a lot of problems with the GPSs at the time. So she turns and then she gets on this small road. And as she kept going, the road's getting smaller and smaller. Before she knew it, she realized that that was a 2 mile road that was actually somebody's driveway. So instead of like stopping and calling the cops, and it was dark, it was the middle of the night, she tried to do a U-turn. And when she did, the back tail swing of the truck took out both their cars, ran over their garden, took out their fence, and then the guy came out with a shotgun and it was threatening her, and you know, it was just bad. Um, there was another time that we had three drivers, three. And again, this was years ago because I know I was in my 2016 Cascadia at the time. Um, in Pennsylvania, there was a lake. So it was East Lake Drive and West Lake Drive, and the lake was in the middle. So these people just followed the GPS, and it took them into a boat slip. Like you're driving down the road and then all of a sudden you go down and you're in the lake. And people are like, well, how could that be possible? How would they not be able to tell? Because it was pouring down rain and it was dark in the middle of the night and they're driving and they thought they were just going down a downgrade. And before they know it, they're underneath the water. So, um, GPSs can really get you in trouble. It is so much better. Like people ask me, well, what do you do as an experienced driver? Guess what I do? I pull on the side, and if there isn't room, I don't care if I'm in downtown Chicago or Georgia or whatever, Atlanta, pull my brakes, put my hazards on, and pull out Google Maps and figure out a way out. Because nobody knows if your damn transmission just blew. And nobody's going to try to jump in that truck and say, hey, you know, move your truck. Is your truck going to move? They're not going to know. And then guess what? Then when you're done, all you got to do is say, oh, look, it started. You know, I once had a cop stop me and he was like, what are you doing? Are you okay? I was like, oh, I was just messaging dispatch. The truck just died. I need a tow. He's like, oh, how long's it going to be? An hour. He goes, oh, okay. And he just went by. And then I figured, okay, let me see where I'm at. And boom, you go. Um, I've gotten into a lot of situations. I'm still going to get into situations. I just had situations last week. You're brand new, you're going to get into situations. One thing that experienced drivers do, we get out and look. And don't just look. Oh, a ferry. Yes. We have that mutual friend who took a ferry to because of the GPS. That was God, who was it? It was Bee's Knees. It was Bee's Knees. He was in New Jersey, okay, and New Jersey's a peninsula state. So instead of going back through Delaware and coming down into Maryland, he wound up going all the way down the shore of New Jersey and wound up in the peninsula. It would have taken him like 2.5 hours to get back up north to come back down south. So the ferry takes 2 hours to get from the bottom of Jersey over to Delaware. And that was hysterical because I think do you remember how much it cost him? Like $189 or something that he wasn't expecting. And he said like the top was so close that he thought he was going to hit the clearance beams. Slim Shady says that she uses Truckers Atlas and Google for shippers and receivers locations. That's about it. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'm actually really happy that I have not gained weight while I'm on the road. I've been back on the road for 2 months now, and last year it was last summer. I took a TNT out, and in 1 month I gained 20 pounds on the road. So so the fact that I've been on the road for 2 months and I didn't gain any weight, I'm happy. hmm Um, I did have, a couple weeks of not really doing my diet at all out here, so I had to get back on it. Uh, Careful what Google won't tell you about short bridges and non-truck roads. Well, you know what? Pelican, something that's really interesting is a truck route can be a truck route, but not necessarily for your truck. And that's something that new people often forget about. A tanker, I had a friend whose tanker, the clearance was like 11.5 or something. So he could get on under lots of bridges that we couldn't get under at 13.6. I went under a 13.6 bridge the other day, got out and looked, figured I had about, yep, go slow, because then if you bounce, boom, boom. And also, if it dips down, you're going like this, and then you're coming back up, and it's not good. That price sounds about right. He changed that setting in the GPS after that. No more ferries. Hey, guess what? I almost went onto a ferry in North Carolina. Not that I actually got to the ferry, but I wound up following the directions that the customer, I called the customer to get directions, followed the directions that they told me, wound up at a circle, which in Jersey we call them circles. Other places call them roundabouts, but uh, I see this sign that says ferry, and I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? So I see this guy with a boat trailer go down the gravel. Now, here's an example where I pulled the brakes right in the middle of damn traffic, put the hazards on, and I walked down to see what kind of area this guy with the boat trailer went to. And I did. I wound up going down there and was able to turn around and came right back. How do you stay healthy being a truck driver? That's really hard. It's one thing that I've struggled with. You know, I struggled with my weight my entire life. That's the truth. Um, Several times in my life, I've lost like 60 to 80 pounds. Right now, I'm still down like 67 pounds. So, uh, happy about that. Um, but I'm still not at the lowest weight that I ever was. I got to the highest weight I ever was last summer, and I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel good at all. So uh I did wind up going down a bunch of sizes. A bunch of sizes. Like, let's see. So I'm down like 5 to 6 sizes depending on the jeans, the brand name. That's a big deal. And I still have some ways to go, but um, one thing that I did do that was really cool on the backing pad while my students were practicing their backing, I was sitting here doing these walking workout things, and I'd have my headset on listening to the music, and everybody on the other pads would be like looking at me like, what's she doing? I'm like, I don't give a shit what they think. uh, I heard Jersey or the Northeast for that matter, is terrible to drive. Jersey scares me. Can't be worse than Chicago, though, I guess. Yes, it is worse than Chicago. Yes, it is. But see, I'm from Jersey, so like the rest of the country doesn't really upset me. uh, it, Am I still doing the charities for your for my channel? Yeah, but it got hard because what I was doing, I was trying to keep tabs on people and be like, okay, this person gave me a referral between like I was doing it in the winter time around Christmas, and so it became hard to make a list of, okay, I made X amount of money off of people. So last year, I just took the whole referral batch the end of the year and then did a percentage. It was just easier than trying to keep track of, okay, this live chat I made $75 and this person I made 1,000 or whatever. So, um, where is my cat? My cat is in the truck. Um, Sometimes she's different than the other cat. Do you remember Goofball? I had a cat Goofball that he was 10 when I first brought him on the truck, and I had him on the truck with me for 4 years. So, you know, he didn't mind coming into the hotels, but this cat. She's real skittish in new places, and I haven't really had her that long, maybe about a year and a half. So I don't think she has the trust in me yet that Goofball did. So I brought her into a hotel and she hid under the bed and wouldn't come out. And I said, the heck with it, I'm not doing that anymore. Um, Congrats on my weight loss. Thank you. I'll tell you what's really been helping me, and I said this in another video, is the Herbalife. I learned how to combine different flavors of Herbalife, and I kid you not, I never would have tried this stuff if I would have known it was Herbalife. Honest to God. But they have a chocolate protein powder, and then they have a praline and cream, and when you mix it together, it tastes like German chocolate. So if you put a little bit of pistachio pudding, it tastes like German chocolate cake. And then if you put the pudding makes it creamier and a little thicker. You put a lot more ice in it and it actually makes it thick, and I eat it with a spoon. Then I top it with some coconuts and walnuts and maybe some dark chocolate chips. And so like people will sit there and say, okay, well, you just ate 300 calories. Yeah, I ate 300 calories that has like 30 grams of protein. And, the walnuts are a good fat. And it took my sugar and my chocolate cravings away. So that's good. Um, Something that I was doing because I'm a sweet person. I need sweets. I need that sugary taste, especially chocolate. But I got a blender, so frozen blueberries I keep on the truck, frozen bananas. If I can get fresh bananas, then I put blueberries, some almond milk, and some banana and make a smoothie that way. And that gives me my sugar kick to get me started in the morning. I always go up on the curb a bit and roundabouts working on that. You know what, Pelican, don't worry about it because that's what the roundabouts, they have that curb is actually like, I don't know what they call it, like beveled. It's made for us to go up on the thing, so don't worry about it. Did I see the video of the prime driver going the wrong way on the one-way side of the road? Yes, I saw it. I did. Um, Here's my thoughts on it. Originally, uh, you know, I think at night we can all do any kind of stupid thing. I've been in places where I said, holy crap, I can't believe I just did that, or wow, that was the wrong way. I admit I never saw a frontage road or a service road before I came out on the road. So I turned the wrong way on a frontage road or service road, whatever you want to call it, down in Dallas, coming out of a blue beacon. And I didn't realize it. I was heading towards the traffic. I got out of that situation. Uh, what I didn't like about that was she should have been able to tell by where the yellow line was if she was going the wrong way. And she claimed that she knew. It wasn't, she didn't say to the cop, oh, I didn't know. And I think we all do dumb things. I think we can all be tired. I think that when you're new, you're really going to mess things up. But I also think social media just ruined her career because by everybody putting that all over the place, no insurance company is going to be able to cover her for the rest of her freaking career. Okay? If some trucking company does tries to give her a chance, later if she has an accident, it's going to be brought back up. And that's something that I tell all these people about YouTube, and there's a lot of prime new YouTubers that keep putting the GoPros on their heads or film themselves while they're driving, and they don't want us to do that. One of the reasons they don't want us to do that is for lawsuit purposes. If the camera is facing us, then they will subpoena the camera and they will be able to tell this person never even looked in their mirrors. They were fixated like this. Or, oh, it took them 10 seconds to look in their mirrors instead of every couple seconds. So um, that's a real issue. She's never going to be able to. Yeah, she said she knew she was going the wrong way, but she was trying to find a spot to turn around. She was going awfully freaking fast when she did that. I mean, let's face it, if I did something like that, first off, I would have been calling the cops on myself. And how do I know that? Because I did call the cops on myself in Elizabeth, New Jersey, almost twice in the same night. Um, I think I at least would have been creeping along, and had my hazards on. I sure as heck wouldn't have been driving. I don't know how fast she was going, 50, 60 miles about an hour. All that can be used against you in court. Exactly. Exactly. And people do dumb things and they forget that we have GPSs on us. They forget that we're being tracked. Um, my company goes to Elizabeth and my condolences, like, bless you, my child. But you know, they just it's like they forget that all that stuff can be used against you. It's even one of the reasons why I'm not crazy about having a dash cam. I mean, I automatically assume somebody's going to jump out in front of me. I automatically assume the guy that's passing me is going to jump in front of me. So that dash cam could actually catch something where I do something wrong. I don't want to see it. I don't want to have it recorded. But we had one woman one time who apparently she was swerving. Now, I don't know if she was distracted or if she was tired. Maybe she was so new that she had lane control issues because she was kind of recent out of TNT. But she was one of those people you couldn't teach her anything, you couldn't help her. She knew everything, so you're like, oh, okay. Um, so according to her, there was an accident that took place behind her. She pulled over on the side of the road and stopped. She then took off. Okay. She never reported any of this to Prime. She claimed. So what happened was she's driving down the road one day and Prime Safety calls her up and says, "We need you to pull over. Um, we need to have a discussion when you get a chance, when it's safe for you to park and talk and everything. Call us, blah, blah, blah." So here they said to her, "We just got, a letter from a lawyer. And we need to know what happened on such and such date at such and such location." And she tried to play it off. "Oh, that wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about." And they're like, "We have the GPS. We have the e-logs. We know it was you." And she tried to say, "No, it was a different truck, blah, blah, blah." And they're like, "We know exactly where all our trucks were at any given time. So you were the only truck that was in that general area. It was like the middle of nowhere in Maine." She's like, "You're the only one that was in there for like, a half hour before and after or something." And then she says, "Oh, yeah, well, the two cars behind me had an accident. And I stopped, got out, and made sure that they were okay. And then, it didn't involve me, so I left." Okay. Well, she doesn't have a CDL anymore. And then she wound up going to like a brokerage firm. She was trying to learn how to be a broker and she used the idea that she was a driver to get herself a job when she lost her CDL, number one. And number two, she was barely out of training, so it's not like she really knew anything. Um, Was she part of the accident or no? Well, see, it depends on who you believe. And according to her, she didn't hit anybody, she didn't cause the accident, she wasn't involved. According to the cars that were behind her, she was swaying so much that she pushed the cars into each other because they hit each other trying to get avoided by getting hit by her. So, you know, in that instance, once she realized there was an accident, she should have stopped. She did stop. And that probably hurt her more than if she would have kept going. Because if she kept going, she could have said, "Oh, I didn't even see anything happen behind me. Oh, I hit some." It sounds terrible, but it's really, you're able to hit something without even knowing it because the trailer's a separate thing. It's not like feeling an impact. I had a friend that was driving through a small street in Long Island and he made a turn. He had been driving for 10 years, okay? And he had no idea that his trailer scraped the car. Um, Here the guy had the car was parked illegally on that street corner. That's where he parked all the time. It had already been hit 3 times in the past year, so he had a video camera pointed out his apartment window at his car, and that's how my friend got caught. But in the video, you see my friend driving, okay, and he didn't slow down. He didn't assume that he hit something. Had he stopped, then it would have been like, hey, wait a minute, he knew he did something. But, and I'm not saying it's okay to hit people. I'm just saying that things do happen. Take responsibility when they do happen. Would the camera have captured her swerving at that moment? We don't have cameras on the truck, number one. Number two, uh, no, because it would have been the trailer. So the only thing that you would see on a dash cam would be the truck in front. So if she's just swaying, a little bit with the trailer, um, it could be a problem, you know. Now, I don't know if somebody else had a dash cam behind her, so maybe they could have proved something, but this was her story to me, and it's kind of funny that people often tell me stories that you can tell there's a little bit of truth and a little bit of fake. And, after being out here for a while, I often can figure out, the good and the bad. Don't be like that Prime driver who gave her diamond ring away at the truck stop. Yeah, that was Trucker Nene. That's never going to happen to me. I don't trust anybody, so uh, I worry a bit about being rear-ended. Like, how would you know? How would you know? You probably wouldn't, unless it was a big truck. You've been on fire before, and that's not good. You know, I know people with Peterbilts, the 2022 Peterbilts are catching on fire. I know about 3 or 4 in the past few months. That's well, probably the past year, but that's scary. Mm, I'm trying to think of some other funny things that people have done. I mean, eh, you know, you don't, when you hear these stories about what people have done, um, you sit there and you say, "Oh my God, that's so stupid. That'll never happen to me." And then you do it. And then you're like, "Oh my God, I feel so stupid. That was never supposed to happen to me." Uh, I've had, I just turned down someplace last week and got stuck in an industrial park, and on the Google Maps it looked like there was a turnaround at the end. Well, the turnaround was actually inside of another customer and they put a gate up. So I couldn't get down the turnaround to turn around. So I said, "All right, let me go into this customer on Google Maps. I could go all the way around this one building and come back out." And I got up this hill and then start to turn, and they put a rope up. It was a rope chain like thing that I couldn't get across. So now I have to back backwards down this thing and then, so you're gonna screw things up. My trailer airlines were severed after running over an ironing board. I had a load of Coors beer. The brakes were burning bad. Ah! Did you guys ever look at the video where the in Las Vegas, since you're in Vegas, look at the video where there's a beer truck that has an accident off camera and the beer comes flying across the interstate and just douses the car and the cop. The cop was pulled over a car and this cop is drenched with beer. It's hysterical. And all I'm thinking is, if he was going to try to give that guy a ticket for drunk driving, whew, that guy just got out of that ticket because now he's covered in beer. Prove I was drunk. um, yeah, people have asked me if I was ever afraid of uh, being on fire. And a friend of mine had a really good idea. She had like a fire strong box on her truck that she had all of her, important documents and stuff in. Um, she would keep her license and her passport and her credit cards in there. So, you know, um, if in the event that the truck caught on fire, she could just jump out and her important stuff would be safe. What advice would y'all give new drivers going back to truck OTR at this moment in time for trucking? Going back to OTR? I don't know. I'd probably say be flexible because depending on how long somebody's been off the road, things change a lot. The hours of service rules change all the time. The training rules change all the time. The trucks, I hate there. Okay, I have I have a newer Cascadia than what I had before, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful truck. But every once in a while it beeps and I have no idea what the hell the beeping is. I just don't know. It drives me nuts. So be patient, be flexible. Um, y'all seen the truck hauling, I guess it was cement or something. Car pulled out in front of it, so the truck stopped and dropped cement on the car. No, I never saw that. But there are some really interesting videos that I show all of my students, and one of them is Wyoming. There is a truck that a cop pulls somebody over. Cop pulls somebody over on the shoulder, and you know, the truck should have gone in the left lane and given a whole lane between him and the cop. He didn't. So he's in Wyoming and here's the cop. The cop's out of the car talking to the person in the car, and the truck's coming, and all of a sudden the truck just comes and gets blown over and lands right on top of the cop car. Now, if the cop was in that car, that trucker is going to prison for vehicular manslaughter. And I don't know if they would give him a stiffer sentence because it was cop. I don't know. But these are things people don't think about. First off, that truck was in the wrong for not being in the left lane and given that space. If he did, the car would have been okay. It's still destruction of private of public property. So I'm sure he got charged with that. But if he was that light or empty, he shouldn't have been on the road. Not with those winds. So, people were honking at me, and then I saw the smoke in the mirror. Yeah, that's scary. Anytime I go through St. Louis, because it smells, it does, I'm always like sniffing, like, is that me? Am I on fire? You know, um, there are some videos that I do. I send my students, and one of them is CRST drove onto the New Jersey Atlantic City boardwalk. And once he got up there, it was nighttime. Once he got up there, he couldn't figure out how to get back down. So he just drove for like a mile or two and caused like millions of dollars damage to the boardwalk because it wasn't met for that weight. Um, Another one, I forget who it was, but they wound up in Florida on a beach. There's a very famous, infamous, if you will, um, incident where a woman drove across one of those historic bridges in Indiana. It said 5-ton weight limit. When the cop asked her, "Why did you go over the bridge?" she said, "Because I didn't know how much a ton was, and I didn't know how much my truck weighed." These are things you need to know as a brand new driver. You need to understand what the weights are so you know where you can go. If not, you can destroy things. So learn from it, protect yourself. Watch other people's mistakes. Um, you have some of the strangest things happen to me too. My trainer was caught in a tornado the other day, had to stop because his tandems were catching air. This was Illinois. Yeah, I've stopped for many a tornadoes. That can be scary, especially like if you're from an area like Jersey doesn't really get tornadoes very often. So the first time I really knew something was up, it was like the whole sky turned yellow. And I parked and I messaged my fleet manager that I call Greedy One Kenobi, and I was like, something wicked this way comes. I don't know what, but I'm parking till it's done. He's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. And then like 10, 15 minutes later, all the tornado warnings went off. So I was like, yeah, sometimes you just get this gut feeling and you have to go with it and just, listen to your gut. Mm, I had a metal rod harpoon my left fuel tank. What? You do have some crazy stuff that happens. Oh. I usually hurt myself. Oh my God. And I took it off, but I should have showed you. I hurt myself all the time. I fall. One time I was doing the landing gear leg and I was on the handle and sometimes the handles like spring back. So you go to push it and it springs back and I got distracted. Somebody went and called me and because I'm so short, the handle literally came up and hit me in the forehead, and I had this big lump. I swear I had a concussion. And then, if you see here, if you've been watching me for a couple years, right here, I have a scar. I cut my eye, and blood was everywhere, and it scraped the bridge of my nose and everything. And I had to back into a dock with one eye. That was really funny. Um, your handle popped back at it. Yeah. And that can really hurt. One of our drivers wound up. Wait a minute, my device is plugged in. It says it's not. Wait, don't go anywhere. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Stupid technology. Uh, yeah, funny now that it wasn't then. I had a friend that a big bird, like with like a 6 foot wingspan, flew right in between the truck and the trailer and got stuck in his catwalk. And he heard it go, and he didn't know what it was, and he actually wound up going and being able to pull it out. Um, I-20 in Shreveport, the highway is elevated. I was changing lanes going around a bend and the pavement expansion joint popped up and hit the fuel tank. My God, that's scary. And these are the kinds of things that make me not want to buy a truck, you know, because even if the insurance is going to pay for that, when you put in insurance claims, it makes your insurance go up, right? And even if it didn't, the claim didn't affect your insurance rates, what's going to happen? You're going to, you know, wind up being out for like a week or whatever, 2 weeks, or God, some of these people were waiting parts for 6 and 7 weeks during like the whole COVID fiasco. But yeah, so anyway, I'm not used to working with the nails on the road. I've only had these nails for a few months, and these are not tips. These are my actual nails. So, and it's got acrylic over top. So this one, I went like this to pull the seat belt, and I pulled the nail, and I was like, oh man, and it started bleeding, and I was like, oh, this is bad. 3 times in one day. So I actually made a little splint with Q-tips, and then I put bandages around it, and it was so funny because everybody was like, "That's ingenious." And then that way, anything that I was going to hit was the Q-tip. It didn't pull it, so now it's like healing better. Yay. But um, you know, I've done things like that. I've sprained my ankle and I just took frozen peas and I took a bungee and I around my I bungeed the bag of frozen peas to my ankle, and that was with my clutch when it was my left ankle, my clutch ankle. And it was funny because it was my mom's birthday, and I was in Arkansas, and I had to go all the way to Florida and then get home in time for her birthday. And there was no way I was going to miss my mom's birthday. I'm telling you, if you've been watching me a while, you know my mom passed away a couple years ago. And if I would have missed that birthday or I would have missed Mother's Day, I'd still be hearing it now. Like she'd be in this room bitching at me right now. It put a 1/4 inch diameter in the hole in the tank. That's crazy. Now think about that. So now you got fuel spilling out all over the place, right? You got to call hazmat and everything. Wow. Yeah, heard on the road, call Dr. Kiersey for a home remedy. Well, you know what? I grew up with 4 brothers and sisters, and I'm like, I've been shot and punched and stabbed and kicked, and you know, there's, I can survive. I can survive almost anything. Yeah, needless to say, a driver was honking at got this torpedoed tank, and oh my God. I have this idea in my head. It's like Land Shark. Does anybody remember Saturday Night Live? Land Shark, right? Um, so all I'm thinking about is like your truck is like shaped like a shark and harpoon, which then leads me back to the low clearance bridges. You new people in Enid, Oklahoma. Google this. Type in shark bridge. You will see YouTube videos, you will see pictures. There is even a Facebook page for the bridge, and it has eyes and teeth drawn on it because it eats up the trucks. It's got signs, it's got flashing lights and everything, and trucks keep going boom, 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 and getting their tops ripped off. No fuel bonus for Slim Shady. That's funny. You guys are crazy. uh, yeah, no fuel bonus for me anymore either. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what other crazy stuff I've done. I fell out of the truck on a scale, and it was an elevated scale. I did that just just did that last month. I was holding on and I went to step down and my foot just kind of like slipped right off the edge of the truck and I literally fell down from the top of the scale. It's got to be up off the ground at least, 6 feet or so because I'm pretty sure the scale was taller than me. Mm. You know what fit in the hole? A cigarette butt. and it slowed the leak to, yeah, okay, drip, drip, drip. I almost rolled the truck one time while parked. I parked on gravel. I was out of hours because there was a traffic accident in Columbus, Ohio. And like I was parked on gravel and I was so exhausted and then all of a sudden I heard "Arr!" and I was like, "What is this?" I get up, I look out the mirror and I could see the top corner of the trailer in the mirror and I was like, "Oh, this is not good." Michelle says, I popped the handle of trailer door out of the cradle and there was tension on it. So it sprung up and smacked me in the chin. Oh my gosh. Oh, jeez. That sounds painful. I'm sorry. Well, something that's funny. Oh, all right. Well, good night, Daniel. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. um, You're talking about the handle on the door, though. One of our instructors, she can't weigh any more than 90 pounds. And when she first came out on the road and she was trying to close the door, the handle wouldn't go down. Now, I either take a hammer or even my trailer door lock and whack that sucker, right? But she had the handle and she lifted her feet up off the ground thinking that her body weight was going to pull it down and it didn't. So here's this woman with her legs up in the air going, I can't get the door closed. Felt like I get kicked by a mule. Well, I don't know what a mule kick feels like, and I'm glad, and I don't ever want to learn that. So, Michelle, where are you tonight? And I don't know. I'm trying to think of what other crazy. One time I was going down a street. It was like a residential neighborhood, and it was a truck route. And then all of a sudden, the trees just seemed like they weren't shaved for me anymore. And I'm like, oh my God. And then there was like a hanging traffic light across the wire, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make this again. Pulled my brakes, got out and looked, you know, but we get into some crazy things. One time, I missed the on-ramp for the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and it was behind the trees. So I didn't see that it was the Pennsylvania Turnpike entrance until I passed the entrance and then saw the sign. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I wound up pulling into this parking lot, and the guy that owned that business comes out and says, you're not going to have enough room to turn around. If you go down this street and make a right, there's a high school. You can turn around in the parking lot. I get down this road, and it's windy, curvy, narrow Pennsylvania again. Stay out of Pennsylvania, I'm telling you, right? And so I get to the high school, there's a gate up, and it wouldn't let me get in to turn around. So I was so scared and nervous that I turned off the first street I could find, and I was in this big cookie cutter type of subdivision type of neighborhood of these huge, like $600,000-700,000 homes. And I'm like, oh crap, what I do? So I found a cul-de-sac, and this guy outside, I asked him, I was like, look, I'm really new. I haven't been home in 6 weeks. I really want to get home. I'm on my way home. I'm exhausted and I need your help. Just if I'm about to hit something, I need you to help me and let me know. And I turned around and didn't hurt anything. I didn't hit anything. And and I stopped and I said, thanks a lot. And he says, you are such a great driver. I'm going to call your company and let them know. And I'm like, please don't. I'm not supposed to be here. Uh, so, you know, things happen. Um, and you can either, let it bother you or learn from it, you know. It's just the way it is. You got to learn from it. You had that happen in the hills above Tucson? What, that you wound up in a residential neighborhood? I've done some crazy things in this truck. God, if they really knew, they'd probably take my truck away. Mm. Caught in suburbia hell. I know something that I did that I didn't tell you. I rolled and totaled my car. Yep. I was coming on a dark country road at like midnight. I'm coming this way, and another car's coming this way, and some kind of an animal. I don't know if it was a coyote or a dog or a deer. My car was really tiny and low to the ground. Whatever it was, it came in front and it looked kind of big. And the car was coming this way, and I didn't want to swerve towards the car. I went swerve towards the right, but I didn't realize there was actually a ditch, like it wasn't flat grass. It went down. And when I went down, I hit a mailbox and then rolled over. And I was completely upside down in the car. The passenger door wouldn't open up, and I had to go kick it open. And all I got was a little scratch. I don't know if you can still see it, but I had a scratch from the seatbelt. And I had a little bruise here, and that was it. And, but my car's totaled, so that's not cool. Um, you know, but so any more questions, guys? Because I think I'm gonna get off here. But I figured I had the Wi-Fi at the hotel and I'd give it a shot. And I really have missed you, and I thank you all for stopping by. I do. It's so awesome to see that people still will come by and jump in. So, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I hope to see you out here trucking along. Bye. You be safe too. Yeah, I'm lucky, I know.